Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming this afternoon again at exactly 1:25. Apologies for starting a little bit late, trying to organize ourselves. But we had our session last Friday, and we went on recess after getting the additional information regarding this particular agenda item for the revolving line of credit, um, $15 million from MPOT that the central government is proposing to borrow. And as a result of that, in the interest of everyone concerned, we decided to go on recess so that we can continue the discussion this afternoon so that everybody has enough time to review the additional documentation that came in last week, Friday, late afternoon, which is already stamped as Governor's Message number 23-176 for anybody that is interested in requesting for an Open Government Act, that they could have access to the information of what exactly is involving on this line of credit and what are the securities regarding this particular borrowing from MPOT of $15 million. Additionally, just for the viewing public, we are again live on cable TV channel 23 and live on the CNMI Legislature's YouTube channel, which will be shared on the CNMI Legislature's Facebook page. And this afternoon, our legal counsel, Joe Bermudez, Senate Clerk Doris Bermudez, and Chanel Borja, Senate Legislative Assistant Jolene Duenas-Tagabel, IT Manager Jonathan Diaz, Sergeant at Arms Benjamin Terlahi are assisting us this afternoon for this continuing session from last Friday. And excuse again is Senator Dono Manglonia, Senator Corina Magofnia, and Senator Selena Babauta are excused from this continuing session this afternoon. Moving right along into our discussion, we left after the proposed amendments to the proposed legislation of House Bill number 23-77 was submitted on the floor, and it was also seconded. And we moved into discussion, and then we recessed from that. And from here on, I would like to dissolve into the committee of the whole so that it will give the sitting senators, myself, also the opportunity to have a much more thorough conversation with the representatives of the governor's office. And if I may call up Mr. Mariano Iglesias, please, Ms. Elizabeth Balahaja, and also the Secretary of Finance, Tracy Norita, to please take your seats. And we can move on with the discussion this afternoon in this session. Just for formality, this afternoon, our acting floor leader, Senator Paul Manglonia, and he will make the proper motion to dissolve into the committee of the whole. Recognize Senator Paul Manglonia. It has been
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now officially in the committee of the whole. And joining us online this afternoon is Senators Dennis Mendiola and also Senator Carl Neighbors. They are online with us this afternoon. Senators, the floor is open for discussion with the representatives from the governor's office. I recognize Senator Paul Manglonia.
Senator Jude.
Okay, I recognize Senator Jude Hofschneider.
Thank you, Floor. Acting Floor Leader, Mr. Manglonia, Senator Manglonia. And good afternoon, everyone. As what the President had mentioned a few minutes ago, just to get just a brief explanation. No, I know Mr. Iglesias was here last week, but if there is the standing question before us, deliberating on the bill is the projects that are covered being under that it's approved by EDA. That's understood, but on the request letter by our governor, also inclusive is made mention of US EPA and other federal agencies. So my standing question is what is the why is it that it's only EDA that is included in the request for this particular obligation or authorization being requested by uh, by by the administration from the legislature? Uh, why can't we include other projects like the DR, 702s, 702 funded projects, and others that are somewhat similar in nature, no? Infrastructure projects. Thank you. And anybody can.
Good afternoon, Senate President. May I? So the reason why this bill only includes the EDA projects is because all of our other grantors allow us to draw down against the grant. So let's say for US EPA or OIA, when they award us, then we establish an account. And when we issue out a contract, we put that account number in the contract. Now, EDA is an exception where they would not make us or provide the money upfront. What they want us to do is show them proof of payment from the CNMI coffer, and then they'll reimburse. So all other grants, I think we are very fortunate because typically all federal grants are really on reimbursable basis. However, with US EPA and with OIA, we are able to draw down against an obligated award. Trace, do you want to add on?
Thanks, Liz. I think the only part that I would like to add on to your question, Senator Hofschneider, was why not include other projects, other CIP projects, DR projects, and the intention for this line of credit proposal was specifically for EDA because of that requirement. All other projects that are ongoing follow the same facilitation as Liz mentioned, whereas EDA posed the only additional requirement, which was proof of payment from the CNMI government prior to even processing a drawdown. And that's the only reason. There's no other reason. It's to ensure that these projects continue to progress and we make sure that we use the federal grants that were awarded. As far as the other federal projects, I think that the current method for drawdown is not an issue. Most of the issues really come from the project itself. And so that's all I'd like to add.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Ms. Balaja. But so I take that because I'm hearing also that there is a current ongoing project right now funded under EDA that is somewhat being delayed because of the lack of, transaction, no? And we certainly don't want that to happen. So we're not anticipating anything similar on other projects that is outside EDA or that is not funded by EDA in the event, less what you guys have mentioned earlier about that concern. We're not anticipating any problems with contractors asking for some sort of upfront payment, or that is not an EDA project, funded project. Are we?
So typically in all our CIP projects, we don't allow for advance payment. We pay them based on progress. So when a contractor finishes up a 30% progress, we go out and inspect it and we certify that it is 30% progress. We certify the payment to the grantor or to finance, and then we request finance. As soon as finance approves that, it's requested through the grantor for drawdown. And that's when the grantor approves the drawdown and it comes here 2-3 days later and payments are issued to the vendor, except for this EDA grant.
Okay, and thank you. I'm gonna yield, Madam President, or Mr.
Oh.
Mr. Floor Leader. Who
Thank
will
you,
be
thank you.
presenting. So, thank you so much, guys.
Recognize Senator Cruz. Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Secretary Liz and Mr. Glacier. As what Senator Afsanada mentioned in regards to this loan, my concern in this loan is I don't see any EDA project for Tinian and Roda. And if this loan is specifically for the EDA, I want to ask who's responsible for the project for the senatorial district. I want to ask Mr. Glacier. I know that I heard that you came down to Tinian, and I want to know what happened.
Thank you, Senator Cruz, for that question. I can say that when I was at EDA, I made it a point to visit Tinian. There was during my visit, the incoming mayor, Aldan, was there. Ms. Kimberly Hines was there. Mr. Alan Paris was there, as well as Ms. Susan Cruz or Paris were there at that meeting, and we discussed our EDA's mission and goal, and we also offered our services at that time for the municipality of Tinian. We offered, recommended a couple projects for them to get started. Subsequent to that visit, EDA have made 5 subsequent visits after that. Also in communication with all the stakeholders of the CNMI. Unfortunately, there was no response from the municipality. Did also met with the Rhoda resident director for commerce, offering the same services. Your question about the projects, the current distinct projects, there are a couple projects that are funded by EDA. One of them is the statewide planning grant. That is a $1 million grant that is a feasibility study for the CNMI. It includes Saipan, Tinian, and Rhoda. That is, we are routing contracts to execute, bringing on board our contractor, and that project is slated to start hopefully by next month. And we will be visiting each of the islands to collect data from the respective islands.
Thank you. So they never respond as to your visit in regards to this EDA matter.
Unfortunately, there was no response after my initial visit. I did recommend a couple projects that could be considered by EDA at that time. However, maybe because of the devastation during that time, all focus was, all efforts was focused on the recovery of Tinian.
So you visit, that's in regards to the damages from Typhoon U2, right?
Yes.
Okay, now I know that there's a couple of FEMA projects down there, and I have no idea as to why there's no response to your visit in regards to this for the submission of to the U.S. Environmental Development Administration, right? That visit, EDA,
Can you repeat the question?
to submit the damages for Tinan to be or Rhoda to be able to be part of these EDA projects or grant, right?
So the FEMA process is separate from the EDA.
Yeah, I know.
process.
I said that there's some FEMA
Yes.
project that is happening down there during the time when you visit.
Yes.
But that particular visit that you visited, Tinian, is for that EDA uh, grant, right?
Exactly.
Okay, okay now. So I know that that's the EDA project is approximately about 97 that is all awarded to the island of Saipan.
Well,
And that's good. That's good, so we can take advantage on those free money from the government. But the thing that I wanna ask is the secretary. I know that this line of credit is specifically for that EDA, right, project. Okay, now it's 97 worth of awarded project, and the agreement on that bill is every drawdown the government or the administration should pay within 30 days, right? And that's only 15 million and versus 97 million. How can you be able to is that the process that in order for that awarded fund to move forward is to have a funding to show the project is going to move forward? I want to understand this because 15 million versus 97 million. I don't know how we can be able to uh, to move forward if that's the case. That in order for that money to move to be to receive or because I know it's awarded and there's some expiration. Some of these EDAs will expire next year. Some are 2026. So I just want to understand how do we go about with this with 15 million versus 97? Is the project going to be moving forward? No, or this project going to rely on the 15 million line of credit?
Yes. So to answer your question, there's actually two parts. Your question was about the total awarded grant funds, which is approximately 97 million. The intention of the revolving line of credit is not to substitute that amount to cover the entire amount upfront. It's meant to take care of progress payments, like Liz had mentioned. And so a part of our proposal to MPLT was an execution strategy of how we believe this can work. We've also provided a breakdown of projected drawdown schedule, meaning on a monthly basis, based on the project completion schedule, the milestones we can estimate on a monthly basis how much we would need to keep the project moving. So the 15 million is not meant to pay for the entire project upfront. It's as it gets completed, we have the financing available to get the vendors paid so they can continue to pay the project. Complete the project. And so the 15 million is really a revolving. You mentioned a 30-day repayment period, and that's there to protect the CNMI to ensure that we process the payments in a timely manner. However, we anticipate that once the payments are ready to be made, that the drawdown package is also prepared, so that once we draw from MPLT and make the payment to the vendor, our drawdown package is also ready for EDA. So we anticipate that the reimbursement funds that are going to repay MPLT will be ready within a week or two. So we anticipate that this 15 million will continue to be be available for the CNMI and continue to push all the projects available. And I believe it was made available to MPLT. I'm not sure if it was part of the communication from the governor's office on Friday. Mariano, was it available?
Oh, there was a letter.
So in the letter to MPLT dated August 14, that was our initial proposal. It was attached to the letter. However, in discussions, that looks like this. I believe the projected expenditure summary was also attached to show on a monthly basis for all the projects, all the EDA projects, how much we anticipate to draw down on a monthly basis. And as the projects get into their construction phase, we start to see a higher amount on a monthly basis. how much we would need to draw from MPLT. So again, it's a forecast subject to change based on the progress completion. But that is our execution strategy on how to use the revolving line of credit to push all projects forward.
So, Madam President, Senator Po, is it okay? So, Senator Carl, I wonder if his question is related, a follow-up to your question. If not, then Senator Cruz.
I have a question too.
Also after Senator Cruz, but I was wondering if it's related. But go ahead, Senator Cruz. Thank you, Chairman Po.
Yes.
Also after Senator Cruz, but I was wondering if it's
Yes. Good afternoon. Do I have the floor?
we'll give time to Senator Carl since the communication issue here. So if Senator Cruz will just yield, go ahead, Senator Carl. You have the floor.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for making the time to be here today. My apologies for not being present. Thank you, Madam President. I had a quick question. There seems to be a lot of thought and care put into the manner by which this is being executed on the tail end. I'm a little bit concerned with how it was being rolled out or the narrative that's being pushed forward with respect to the second and the third senatorial specifically. Mr. Iglesias, you had mentioned that you had reached out to not only the mayor, the chief of staff, but the director of commerce. I would ask, do you have anything that, whether black and white, that consummated the conversations that you guys had? What was the nature of this inquiry? And at what point did you guys, as a whole, to all members, at what point do you stop inquiring to the senatorials and go forward with the monies or the projects that you deem necessary? You said, I apologize, I'm trying to make it comprehensive. You said that you had a couple of projects that you wanted to, that you provided them. Obviously, they had to have not been conflicting with current FEMA projects. So I'm just trying to ascertain what was the back and forth and why, in your opinion, did the dialogue just stop and was Tinian and Rhoda not left into this conversation?
Thank you, Senator Carl. Unfortunately, I don't have my notes from EDA. I had to surrender those notes to the office. However, I do have copies of my itinerary coming over to the CNMI on the initial trip. It does list the agencies and the nonprofit organizations that I was able to meet during my time during my initial trip to the CNMI. I can provide you with that. I can look into my notes to see if I have those notes written down, and I'll furnish that as best I can. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, I was kind of inquiring about with regards to just the so in the event that you don't have any of the actual documents, emails that you had to surrender back to the original agency, but I guess if you could just expound to the body, what was the nature of the discussion, how was it received, and side and separate, at what point were the discussions broken off from the senatorials, and then whatever was left that apparently, because I guess my question is, Rhoda was not affected by you two in the same manner that Saipan and Tinian was. So the fact that they were just kind of in the wind with this, it's very hard for me to understand. So at what point did Saipan Central decide, okay, this is the list we're going to go on, this is the deadline, this is the things that people provided us with, so we're going to go forward with it? That's kind of what I'm trying to find out. Thank you.
Okay, so if you refer to the notice of funding opportunities that provided the supplemental allocation from that presidential decree 4404, it does include Rhoda under Typhoon Mangkut, under that same disaster relief NOFO. So, and that's why Rhoda was also included in that discussion, initial discussion. Um, the projects that I recommended to the municipality were the one was the reservoir. Having seen the reservoir at the airport upon arrival, I saw immediate there was damage at that facility. Having known the history of Tinian's water system, I also recommended that they um, consider putting in a project proposal for a designated transmission line from Marpo Well 2 all the way up to the reservoir up at Carolinas Heights. Those were the two projects that I immediately recommended, and because we're in typhoon recovery mode, those were the two projects that would make sense to put forth. And I cannot speak to the priorities of the Tinian municipality, nor the cinema at that time. I was a federal employee, so I was only given recommendations, and I cannot force the municipality to continue engaging. I know that they were pressed for for um, just to recover from the devastation. I was there. We were lucky there was electricity at that time at the mayor's office when we were holding our meetings. But everybody was in recovery mode. It was 29 days after the typhoon when I visited Tinian. So that's the best answer I can give right now.
Um, Director, I guess what question gini na for example, MVA tourism grant example na masyat manopi mayor pati manopi na no MVA debiti umafaisin na oficina mo na zafa na programa para Rodan Tinian or for that matter a public school system masyat manopi mayor na lo debiti faisin ni PSS lo offer programa mamizu ni sila lutan Tinian na so isi I guess the question the problema beti gini taza representante gi OPD no ginin Rodan Tinian maybe the big one representative na kosaki ang ginin sasangan po NMTI Workforce Training Facility representative suka timanopi mayor na no sinya busy para offer sa typhoon law question gini who gi OPD or isi man napiplika gini mama decision temano na isinya was no sinenti na taatan loki pumalu isla. I guess ini question gini na. Kau guatinanong representante that the mayor representative na MVA, PSS, commerce or Aussie deputy office mizu alu oja by the way office otru isla na. Tauza taganaw na kasi follow up.
Sus masin no Senator Paul no hanggang in the initial visit here, I met with of course the department heads and agencies here on Saipan. No, muna rason na I took the time to meet with the municipality of Tinian also because they're on the ground as well, no, and they know apa mas manasita, no, other than the central government, no,
Well,
central
MVA,
office.
for example, MVA,
Yeah.
Molik Sagwa project niya, Garpan Revitalization Project, lo, often at the Manalo Mongalum, 11 million umaluk, matanoy masya 1 million at na Molik Pinatan Park, and often a park tinian, no, is it the Manalong grant, why didn't somebody at MVA, we have representative, and even if our board member are not very responsive, I think that your office should have at least put out the message that, hey, MVA, give us this worth of project for Road and Tinian so we can also help the tourism market there. Ne? I mean, just because they're quiet doesn't mean that your office have to ignore it also, right? So I guess now it makes me wonder, should we put representative in your office so that those are the people that then, if it has to do with PSS grant, then that representative will say, PSS, hey, you're getting 6 million. Don't you have a 600,000 project for Roda 2 and 600,000 project for Tinian? Is, I guess that's the kind of sentiment that we have here. And $97 million project, and not 1 million is just 1%, right? So not even 1%. So that's what we're saying, because I'm sure that when you work with MVA, your office should have said, MVA, what about for Rhoda and what about for Tinian?
Oh, comprehend that, no,
No.
Senator.
So I guess that's
I-
it. But I think just to move this along, because we're trying to talk about the bill, and can I just allow Senator Cruz, Senator Dennis, and Carl King, Senator Carl, to finish his question, because he wants to move on with his question. He still have the floor. So I'd like to recognize Senator Cruz back, moving along. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The one you just raised, that's one of my questions, but that you share with these three important people here, no, Chairman.
Madam
I'm-
President, may I have one last question?
I'm trying to completely understand. Is it 15 million line of credit? I mentioned earlier on about the 97. You answered it, but these 10 project, they're all ongoing. The 10 project that we have for EDA, they're already ongoing project. So,
Madam President and Senator Cruz, may I answer that? So all of these, we have the award.
Yes.
Some of these projects have not started yet. Some of them are in the design process, which is probably just 30% progress. The only construction project that is ongoing now is the Garapan revitalization.
Okay. The reason why I raised this question, I want to inquire from you guys, is because if we are awarded, there's no drawdown to do the initial process for the project. That's why we have to have a side money like loan from MPT to proceed with the project.
I believe that the CNMI does not have the fund to upfront the cash to pay for these EDA projects.
We don't when we're awarded, we don't get it from them to do the initial.
No.
We have to have
it's
available
on a
funds to be able to proceed with the project.
Right. It's on a reimbursable basis.
So whatever amount that you get from the 15 million for all these three projects, you will get back what is
Yes.
awarded.
So we created a table, and it's really a rough projection because some of these are in a 30% design. Like I said, the construction project at the Garapan revitalization, that's easier to monitor in terms of progress. So what it is, we created at what we need now and what we need. It may not be every month that we're going to have a payment request because it's going to all depend on the progress.
I'm trying to understand what you mean by reimbursable. Because if you were to get the 30 million, you're gonna get it anyway, right?
Right.
So what do you mean? Is it on top of the 13 million?
No, so what it is they expect the CNMI to pay upfront. So if you're the contractor and you have $1 million invoice, the CNMI must pay that $1 million. And then after that payment, we have a checklist and we have reimbursable documents that we send to EDA. And once it's approved, they reimburse that $1 million.
From what is awarded?
From
that
what is
amount.
awarded, yes.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's reimbursable. Anyway, you're gonna get that amount.
Right, but like I said, they don't allow us to advance the grant,
I,
not
I
like.
think we need to clarify that this is the first time that they decide to do this kind of payment method.
Yes, right?
Other agencies, my understanding, it's not like this. Only EDA money, and it's first time that they first want you to pay for it, then you get reimbursed. Right? 702 money is not like that, right?
No.
Okay.
Because the reason why I continue to question is because we don't have the money. They got the money. EDA. That's why we're applying for grant because cinema don't have money. But if we were to provide the initial funding, and in the event we don't have the funding, so how are we going to tap on this?
I think we can all just assume that when these projects were submitted to EDA, at that time, the assumption was like any other CIP projects, and the facilitation of repayment or reimbursement would be the same. It was only until we started actually moving forward with the projects and having to request the drawdown, EDA was having that initial additional requirement, which was the check, a clear check from the bank. And that's where the CNMI stepped back and said, whoa, this was not required of us of other grantors. And EDA, it actually was a discussion that went back and forth, and we actually asked for the flexibility that other grantors allow us to do. And they made their position firm that they will not allow that flexibility, and that they actually encourage states to seek financing for their projects so that they can make payment and get the reimbursement. So we did try to get the flexibility that others provide us, but we were not provided that. So
Yeah,
we had
yeah,
to move
yeah.
forward with finding a way to finance.
You
the
understand
project.
that? But in the event we don't have the resources,
Yeah.
then what?
Exactly.
Even though we're awarded, we cannot touch any of this?
There's high risk
Because
of
you mentioned
non-completion.
yesterday, Mr. Iglesias, that it was passed by the Congress and the cinema was awarded out of that 90 some, which is 97 plus million, almost 98. So for me, cinema is awarded, but you cannot get the money unless you have a
Yes.
funding to
Grants,
proceed with the
funding.
project. So that's how the process is.
For EDA at least, yeah. They withheld payments to us based on cost incurred. They want us to pay it first before they reimburse.
So it's almost like I'm gonna give you free money, but if you don't have initial funding to proceed, then I'm sorry.
Unfortunately,
Is that what it is?
unfortunately, that's the case right now. And there were instruments that would allow the CNMI to avail. Unfortunately, EDA did not want it to give us that to apply that instrument, which is face disbursement.
Yeah, thank you, because very limited resources, and we're not the same as the continent that they have a lot of resources. Us, we're only depending on tourism. We don't have any big company that can be able to provide like the we used to have government. Maybe we can get it from there, but we don't have. So I don't know if the federal government understand the limited resources in the Commonwealth, that even though you offer this, we're not able to do it because we don't have the resources to go with an issue. Like I said, if MPLT refused to give us his money, then all this 97 million is useless. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I recognize Senator Carl King, Senator Dennis Mendiola, then back to Senator Carl. Senator Dennis? Senator Carl, if you're there, please proceed.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And
Please proceed. Can you hear me?
thank you. And first of all, thank you, Madam President, for allowing me to be absent or not be there in person due to the emergency. But I I do have two questions pretty much, and I think we keep going back and forth on some of the payment process for this EDA loan or for this line of credit. So my question is it possible we just define the line of credit and what is meant by the 15 million line of credit with MPLT, so that our constituents that are against this or don't fully understand what we mean by line of credit? Because most of our constituents are calling asking why we're going to use MPLT money to front this project, EDA project. How about our constituents? How are they going to benefit from this? So I think it's fair if we just ask the question of how is this going to be beneficial, and what reassurance do we have that, for example, this line of credit, should we pass it today, it's not going to transition into a loan program where now we're going to rely on the coffer of the CNMI government to pay this in the absence of any additional revenue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. No, Secretary, sino answer?
Thank you, Senator Mendiola, for those questions. So you have multiple questions in that. And so the first one that I'd like to address was your question of what is the line of credit, and the concern whether this is going to be a loan. The line of credit is really just an authorization from MPLT to allow funding. However, they've put a lot of protection mechanisms in our agreement, or actually in the House bill, so that we ensure that it doesn't become a loan. One such mechanism to protect the line of credit is to have the repayment period of 30 days. You can't just draw on the fund and not pay it. They will not allow the next drawdown until you pay the first one. So that's one protection in place. The other concern about what do we get for this? The interest is there. There is a financing cost to this, which we understand the projects will now have to include that in the cost of their grant. MPLT also wanted to know whether the cost of financing is covered by the grant, and it was confirmed by the grantor, by EDA, that yes, should there be any cost, interest cost of financing, it is allowable by the grant. So it will be a part of any funding that is drawn from MPLT. As far as what else do you get out of it, is the completion of the projects, in addition to the revenue generating activities that occur during the construction phase. And those are the things that we want to stimulate. Others in...
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I
That's
think that's, so we've seen the bill. I think every senator has seen the bill, and we understand all the provision placed or input into this bill to ensure that we make sure none of it transition into a loan. But I just wanted, because we are live, I just wanted to make sure that you kind of define that so that our constituents can hear, because again, there's a lot of questions about this. And the bottom line is, if we don't agree to this today, then it's safe to say that the project will cease to exist or come to a halt. And the actual benefits that you've just mentioned includes taxation, includes project improvement, capital improvement in our community. So it's very beneficial, and but we just want to make sure that our constituent understand this, because there's a lot of controversy from us just pulling from MPLT, and just everybody's assuming a loan, but it's really a line of credit. And if I was to break that down, if 30% is $2 million, then by the end of 30 days, then we need to draw down 3 million or 2 million and pay that back with interest. Is that correct? Is that safe to say?
Yes, that is correct. And in addition to that, MPLT has shared with us that they will not liquidate 15 million in assets right away. They will only liquidate the portion that we request. So like Liz said, it's based on progress payment. So I guess if the progress for this month is only 1 million, then that's the only amount that they would liquidate to issue the cash to the CNMI. So
Thank you.
it's not an upfront $15 million to the administration. Again, MPLT is
Yeah.
taking a very conservative approach. They want to ensure that the CNMI's best interests are protected, and we understand that. That's why there's the 5% interest there. And that's also incentive for us to get that revolving execution strategy in place so that we don't incur.
So in other words,
interest.
MPLT gains 5% in interest from that 1 million, 2 million, whatever that drawdown is, or whatever that upfront cost is.
Yes, every drawdown.
Okay,
every
and that's
drawdown.
pretty much it. To my understanding, that pretty much answers the Senator Cruz's question about 97 million versus 15 million line of credit. So it's not necessarily that we're gonna pay $97 million upfront, or we're gonna exhaust 15 million upfront. It's if the project is gonna cost upfront $3 million, we have to get that back before we move to the next phase.
Yes, that's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So yeah. So thank you for that. I think there's a little bit more clarity, and I'm a lot more confident that that if we vote for this, there's a little bit more of understanding in terms of our constituents, the people that put us in our seat. Finally, I just want to go along the lines of Senator Paul's statement about just because there's no communication between the municipality, the ball just gets dropped because nobody has an input. However, we do. The problem is that we bring subject matter experts to the municipalities, and they tell us the need for the municipality. But the problem is that whenever there's a project, and this goes to Mr. Iglesias' statement, the problem is that whenever there's a project out there, it's normally the central government or Saipan. Rhoda and Tinian seems to get left out in a lot of these projects, and it's very concerning because, for example, the statement is that the communication is between the mayor and all these directors, but there's no proof that there's communication. So if I talk to the mayor, for example, right now, I'm sure the mayor's going to say, no, I made a communication, but they didn't respond back to me. So we're going to keep going in this circle of whose fault is that we don't have a project in Rhoda and Tinian, and we're going to keep pointing fingers. But the problem is that our people keep suffering because that's all we do is point fingers on whose fault it is. So I want to go to Senator Poe's point where why don't we just create, or I'm sure there's already a representative for the municipality and just work with them to work with the mayors, the delegation, so that we can push these projects and not have these issues in the future. And we have that open line of communication and nothing gets dropped, because if we're going to wait for the mayor to respond, the mayor's practically the governors in each municipality trying to deal with everything. But we're expecting them to respond to every transaction or every communication. It's going to be a little bit hard. So thank you, Senator Paul. Thank you, Madam President. I yield for now.
Thank you. Any Senator Carl? President?
Thank you, Senator Paul. And thank you, senators, for asking your questions. Let me proceed with my own questions. Let me begin with, obviously, it is a legitimate concern from the public regarding the borrowing of money from MPOT, and specifically under Article 10, taxation on public finance, under Section 4, public debt limitation, where it speaks about public indebtedness other than bonds or other obligations of the government payable solely from the revenues derived from a public improvement or undertaking may not be authorized in excess of 10% of the aggregate assessed valuation of the real property within the Commonwealth. And so to begin with that particular citation, my question to the Secretary of Finance, is this particular revolving line of credit in excess of the allowable 10% of the aggregate assessed value of the real property within the Commonwealth?
Thank you, Senate President. I wish I was able to answer that question. However, we have yet to have a published study of the 10% valuation of CNMI properties. I know that it was part of a TAP award from the Office of Interior, or the Department of Interior, Office of Insular Affairs. However, that project has stalled due to the cost of the proposals that were submitted, which the grant funds were insufficient. So at this time, I don't have any updated information as to the 10%. What I would add is that the line of credit is meant to be a short term and not a long term debt instrument. And so with that, I think, especially because it is tied to awarded grant funds to ensure or secure the payments, I think that it would still be beneficial to move forward with the $97 million in federal projects that we have in front of us.
Thank you for your response, Secretary of Finance. Staying along the particular citation, public indebtedness, again, may not be authorized for operating expenses of the Commonwealth government or its political subdivisions. In your opinion, on record today, is this revolving line of credit going to be used for the government's operating expenses?
The only operational costs would be those that are incurred directly tied to the project. So these are costs that are anticipated and approved by EDA. These are not local government operational costs. So it is restricted specifically to the grant.
Thank you for that clarification. Now, referring back to the valuation report that is pending, in your recollection, when was the last time the Commonwealth government initiated or executed a valuation report of the entire Commonwealth property so that we know exactly at that time period what would be our evaluation? If I recall, the prior Secretary of Finance, if I'm not mistaken, came out on the newspaper and cited a census report, and I believe it puts us maybe a little bit over 2 billion valuation, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a little bit under 2 billion. And why I ask this question is because this is where I'm going to ask the legal counsel, because absent the current valuation of the Commonwealth, considering that we are currently debating the issue of a $15 million revolving line of credit, and the execution of this particular note would be today, current time period. Whereas we do not have a current valuation report pursuant to the CNMI Constitution, so that we don't go in excess of 10%. And the only valuation that we have is whatever we had before, many years ago. That's the reason why I asked the question of when exactly was the last time we had the valuation study done for the Commonwealth.
I don't have that information with me right now. I know the efforts to have an updated valuation report that has stalled, so I don't have that information right now.
Thank you, Secretary. And for the interest of the public, just so that we provide comfort in this particular issue, because it's a lot of interest, it has generated a lot of conversation in the community, and naturally so. There was an RFP 22-DOF 422-00004 that was published as the RFP with respect to pursuing the valuation of the Commonwealth properties to keep it current. And as you stated today, the money was not enough, and therefore this project has not gone anywhere. I'm hopeful that the administration would put more effort and much more effort into pursuing to push forward so that we could know exactly what is truly our market value, so that we know exactly how can we promote ourselves if we were to float additional bonds, for that matter, to keep our government afloat. And that's one of the concerns. Now, you mentioned earlier about, and I wanted clarification again, just to make the record straight, that the grantor had allowed you to attach the 5% financing rate from MPOT as part of the project cost, and that is considered to be an allowable expense. Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. And the 30 days payback time will reduce the cost of the 5% financing, I would assume, that would not run out of the grant award amount. Is that the plan? The earlier you pay, the less you pay on rate, correct?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. That's the plan?
Our plan is to pay back as soon as possible to incur the least amount of interest so that every dollar that was awarded for the project would actually go to the project.
Thank you very much. Moving into your, I see, of course, thank you, Mr. Mariano Iglesias, for providing us the listing of the projects, and thank you for securing more than $90 million of EDA grant monies. It's quite apparent that some of these projects have not taken off the ground. And right now, as we speak, the reason why it's a $15 million revolving line of credit is because of the ongoing projects, as Ms. Balahajat stated, the phases, A&E design, construction, project manager, a few A&E designs, and assessment pending award. And I did the calculation, it comes out to about 14,124,135.93 cents, rounded off to $15 million revolving line of credit. Is that correct? Yes? Okay, and
Yes, Senate
the
President.
period of performance, thank you for listing down the months of performance. And I see that the smallest one or the earliest one that should be taken off is NMC Center for Research Extension and Development Project of 10 months. You got another NMC College Workforce Development and Training Center for 10 months. And the CNMI Economic Recovery and Feasibility Carry Capacity Study, that's also 10 months period. And the earliest one to expire on the grant side is that CNMI Economic Recovery and Feasibility Carry Capacity Study, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. All right. Now, moving on to my next question would be on your, and just seeking clarification on my question on the August 14, 2023 letter that was signed by the governor and lieutenant governor as addressed to Mr. Philip Mendiola Long. And on your execution strategy, point number 6, project manager prepares federal reimbursement drawdown request with proof of payment. Just for clarification, who is the project manager? Is it the contractor or is it your office?
It is the office.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That's I wanted clarification. Okay. Senator Paul, floor leader, I believe I asked most of my
Okay,
my questions. Thank you very much.
thank you, Madam President. I recognize, I have some questions, but I'm gonna recognize Senator Carl for the last time. Senator Carl?
Thank you, Senator Paul. I just have one quick question with regards to the EDA. Who applies for the EDA grants on behalf of the CNMI? Who applies for the EDA grants on behalf of the CNMI?
So it's basically the departments or agencies. So it's Can you hear me? Okay. So essentially, the way the proposals are put together, it's
Yes.
it's the departments or department heads or agencies that that has I guess the proposals put together, and we assist on the EDA side, putting together the final proposals for submission.
Now, are municipalities able to avail and apply directly to these grants, or do they have to go through the clearinghouse of Office of Grants Management?
So they can opt to go each department or agencies, if they don't have grant writers, they can avail the Office of Grants Management for assistance. In some cases, like DCCA, they were able to ask OGM for their assistance, and they were able to assist DCCA to put together the package and submit it to EDA.
Thank you for that. I yield back, Florian. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator. Just quickly, a couple questions here. You also have in the governor's letter to MPLT a project under BEAT, 1.9 million. Is that expected to also have bridge financing or not? And is that EDA? That's 1.9 million?
The BEAD program is actually under the National Telecommunications and Information Administration.
Yeah, but the question is, do they also require pay upfront and then reimbursement?
I believe so.
And it's not EDA.
It's not EDA.
So don't we need to put a language then to include that, because
Yeah.
the way it's written now in the amended version, it's not going to qualify, right? It's only EDA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to make a floor amendment if the members decide to include this. But I just want to make that point. The other one, the ASADRA, you call that ASADRA funds, the 56 million for EPA project?
US EPA.
Is that anticipated that they need also upfront payment and then reimbursement? Yes or no?
Senator Paul, with what we've gone through with the US EPA, no.
Okay, so we don't need
Yes.
to include that, right?
Right.
Okay, so again, it's basically for EDA money. So in other words, even if it's not on this list, if in the next 7 years we have another EDA money, we would then we can still qualify that as long as it's within 7 years. Right? I mean, oh shit, just for this 97 million. If
yes.
tomorrow you get another grant from EDA, you can actually use this money, right?
Yes, I would think so.
Okay. I don't know if the language in the bill allows for that, but I just want to kind of know, as long as so we can put a provision in this bill that says once that requirement is no longer there to pay upfront and then get reimbursement, that then this will cease to be used, right? We can put a language in there, attorney, that once they change the policy, if they change the policy tomorrow, we don't want to continue with this. We want you to prepare a package and get reimbursed right away, right? Okay, so legal counsel maybe include that in one of the amendments to offer. On page 5, line 10 of the amended bill, page 5, line 10, it says here, no further drawdown shall be made unless and until the prior drawdown is satisfied. I think you intend to say here per project, right? Because if you're starting project A and you pay 1 million, right? You're going to start project B and it's another million. You don't want to say, wait till they pay the 1 million first. And then I think you intend to mean by project. Is that correct? Because we want to be clear on this. You know, it means by project, you don't get the second request paid if you haven't paid back MPLT the first, right? By project.
Well, if I may, the language provides flexibility for each request to include multiple projects, so that we don't have to keep sending MPLT multiple projects every week, or requests every week. We could work on our side, on the administration side, to put or compile, let's say, what's the request going to be twice a month, so that we can also have some kind of planning with the project managers to ensure that they submit all their invoices for payment, no matter what project, right? We're trying to move all projects.
Also, it
at
will
the
be
same
not
time.
by project. If you're late, you have to wait
Yeah.
till the next round and
Yes.
next
so
month or whatever.
Our drawdown schedule we provided to MPLT was actually the cumulative amount for that month
Okay.
that we project
Okay.
for each
I
project
understood.
together. Yeah.
The MPOT rate of, I guess we need somebody from MPOT of the 5%. That's the average, right? For whenever they give loans out, that's a average interest rate. Why don't we want it 10%? Charge them 10%. If it's allowable, right? I mean, what's the maximum allowable?
The only thing I would mention there is that the higher the interest, the less money that goes to the project. This was a
Oh,
cost-
because they cap the project money and so.
Yes. So this was an
Okay, I didn't know. I
unanticipated-
thought that it's that amount plus that maybe.
Oh no, it's part of
Okay.
part of your grant.
Right now, if this was a law, how much money spending that you can actually pay the contractor today as right now?
So due immediately, it's $1 million
That's all for now?
for now. We're probably going to push this back again, but somewhere we look at our schedule, our projected schedule, and next month in November, it'll be $1.3 million. And then it goes down to $238,000.
So I'm worried, no, Director, that we're moving slowly. Your answer should be we should pay already 17 million, 18 million. Why is it not going speedily?
Because it's based on progress. So, like I said, some of these projects are only at 30% design. The only construction that we're gonna expect big drawdown is the Garapan Revitalization Project.
Well, that one you owe $1 million, you're saying roughly.
Well, and some of the design. So, like the 30% design.
Also,
Okay,
some of the, if I may add, some of the challenges we have with the A&E process is they will not move forward to 60% or 80% until they get paid for the 30% progress payment. So
Oh.
those are the things that's part
Also,
of.
it costs big delays, more money, but big delay, right? Because of the design. Yeah.
Senator, if
Director?
I just wanted to clarify with NTIA, the beats, just going back to the beats question. NTIA is a sister agency of EDA. They're both under U.S. Department of Commerce. And so they subscribe to the same reimbursement payments.
Yeah, but the law says EDA project. So is this EDA?
Understood. I just wanted to clarify that.
But it's not really EDA. So if we don't change the law, amend it, it will qualify then, is what you're saying?
No. I'm just saying that with beats, you're asking if this is all.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the legislation. Do we need to amend it or we don't need to amend it?
To include it, right?
We don't need to amend it then. Okay. On the comment by the Madam President about the 10%, I just want to say that the bill itself protects the legislature actually because it's saying that with the concurrence of the Attorney General, right, and also the certification by the Secretary of Finance, if we approve this, that this line of credit will then proceed with the certification by the Attorney General. So I'm done. I'm going to recognize Senator Jude before we go back to the session or before several members. Senator Jude.
Thank you, Flor. Just to add on to what Senator Poe was saying, we would like to see the project move fast. Just for clarification, do you guys anticipate? Aren't you guys concerned with this lack of workforce and this project performance, and how's it going to affect the rate of payout and reimbursement and repayment of? I mean, it's always a question, no? It's always a.
Yes. But I think like the ongoing construction, The contractor has assured us, and we see their people working despite the non-payment. But then the others are still on the design process. So that's more on the, engineering side of it. It's going to take us time to bid it out for construction. And that's why I think most of our projects that we're going to concentrate is really on the ongoing construction project now. But of course, once we have this, we're going to tell our consultants, you better move it, right? So right now, it's just kind of hard to push with the progress when we don't have payments.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for that answer. So I would like to think that now that we see all these 100% funded EDA approved projects, we can be financially creative too on the other source of funds to try and tend to the needs of the other two senatorial districts with regards to Soblan 702 funds, federal highway funds, other that's not necessarily kay gigini na lista. So na be faisin amdu sa amdu kay gigin no finance OPD, of course Mr. Iglesias lo nanggingwaha request that is pending before, because every island has their own priorities, with infrastructure, and some of them timanginatsa gini lo tunga lokyan. At the same time, there's going to be a more creativity in terms of funding these projects. I'm just asking because we're being asked to support something like this, which is very critical, and we agree with it that we need to be up and up on considerations such as this. But I also, coming from this side, I would also like to ask for further guidance from your entities that whether the delegation or the mayors or whoever on the islands of Rota and Tinian that come knocking and submitting, that we need to extend the same courtesy, tunga na you guys are doing it, but we are always fighting with CIP funds because there's 15 million every year. Now it's only like 7 million, and most of it is going to CUC. So, which brings me to CUC. It's a lot of challenges, but I will not, belabor this conversation, Madam President and Senator Paul. I would make that comment when we go back into session, but I don't have any questions with regards to the panel today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Judah. Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Paul. I just have a few more questions as I was listening to the other senators. On the issue of construction, do you know how many contractors are affected by the touchback provision? Considering that possibly the period of performance based on this report, I would think that this is the entire project period, correct? It's not just by the particular phase that is listed as the A&E design. And so I wanted to hear from the panel how many companies are affected by the touchback provision, because if they are, then obviously they will not have the workers necessary to complete the projects, the ongoing construction projects here on Saipan.
Thank you, Madam President. And I believe that all of them are affected by this touchback. But when you take a look at all the projects right now, a majority of it, I say 85% of it, is in the design phase. So, even if we complete the design, we're going to have to bid it out for construction. And design may take up to 6 months to 8 months. Some of them, we would like to finish it in maybe 4 months from now. But yes, to answer your question, I think all of them are affected by the touchback.
All right, and just for additional clarification on the period of performance on the listed of months at the last column, for example, the 19 months pertaining to Department of Finance Economic Resiliency Center, is that 19 months only reflecting the phase of A&E design, or is that reflecting the entire project period?
I think the entire period of performance is 5 years.
Okay.
For each grant.
All right, thank you. Now, on my last set of questions on the response to the MPOT August 14 letter from the governor's office. This is the letter from the U.S. Department of Commerce, and it is signed by Sheba Person Whitley. And I could understand why there's a concern of the federal government, particularly the EDA funded grants. They require the CNMI to upfront the money first, and then they will approve the drawdown later after expenses are paid out. For the concerned public, on this particular letter from the federal government, the last completed single audit submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse was for fiscal year ending 2020. The single audit for fiscal year 21 was due at the end of June 2022, no later than 9 months after the end of the fiscal year on September 30, 2021. So it is now approximately 1 year overdue. Such noncompliance can be remedied by submitting current audits to the clearinghouse. To the Secretary of Finance, my question, for the record, where are we right now with respect to the audits, and how current are we?
Thank you for that question, Madam Senate President. The letter is accurate in those dates that we did submit our 2020 audit just in January of this year. We are currently in progress for our FY 2021 audit. However, activities have begun for FY 22 and 23 on our side to prepare for those audits. Now, the significance of a completion of the audit is that we have the ending audit adjustments that will then be rolled forward to the next fiscal year, which is 22, and then rolled again forward to 23. And so we're working closely with our auditor, Ernst & Young, and our target completion date for FY 2021 single audit is March of next year, March 2024. But we are already discussing our options as to how can we catch up as soon as possible. And so you're familiar with the blackout that Department of Finance went through at the end of the fiscal year. And it was to ensure that we conduct our year-end closing activities for FY22. And we look forward to doing that same year-end process for FY23. And I'm hoping that we'd be able to do some sort of concurrent audit for 22 and 23 so that we can complete all 3 years as soon as possible.
Thank you for that update. Now, further for, again, the viewing public and concerned citizens, that on the same letter, the EDA was also informed the outstanding audits are currently being worked on, which you have just stated, but also that EDA provided funding for the Munis financial system, which should also help to improve the single audits. While these entities may not be in full compliance at this time, the situation can be remedied. And so my question to you, Secretary of Finance, how much money was funded by EDA for the Munis system?
I don't have the exact amount with me right now, but it is around, I would say, 2 million. And we can share that with you, the reimbursement of that.
Thank you very much. And on the same paragraph, it mentions while these entities may not be in full compliance, who are they referring to?
I believe they're referring to the CNMI as a state.
Entities? These entities?
Yeah, it's the same word. I believe in our communications with EDA, we communicate as a representative of the CNMI, which is a state.
A single state?
But I think to be more specific, it's each program, each project that was awarded to different departments. And so those separate entities, of course, we all fall under the single audit. So I think it means one and the same. It is the CNMI they're referring to. Yeah.
And I'm going to go on the record. I remember when Governor Enos was still the governor, the late Governor Enos, that was one of the major concerns of the CNMI government, the outstanding audits that have not been addressed. To your recollection today as we speak, what is the total number of outstanding audits that remains to be addressed in totality? I know that the Office of Public Auditor maintains a tracking system, and we do see the listing. And so, to your recollection, what is the best number that you could give us today of how many outstanding audits that remains unaddressed by these particular entities within the CNMI government that does affect our performance with the federal government now pushes us into trying to secure a $50 million line of credit from MPOT because of the non-performance of answering audits that are outstanding?
To my recollection, I know that the single audit is representative of the central government and its component units, which are the autonomous agencies. And from what I understand, there are other autonomous agencies that experience delays in submitting their audits, their annual audits, and are behind. I don't have a total list of their submission dates, but I do know that they are working on getting caught up as well. And I can't say what was the cause. I can assume that COVID played a big role in the delay of completion of audits on time. And that does impact the completion of the single audit because we have to publish with or without those completed audits of the component units. So the central government is behind. I know that there are some other component units that are behind as well.
Thank you for that. And again, for the viewing public, on the same letter, in general, a line of credit will not violate the terms of the EDA grant awards unless it requires a lien on real property or personal property to be improved or acquired under an EDA grant award. Should MPOT require a lien on such property or on any potential program income, to please schedule a meeting with Mr. Kinga and the EDA Council. Such liens are prohibited without EDA written permission. In most cases, EDA requires a first priority lien for the benefit of EDA on property improved or acquired with EDA funds. My question is MPOT requesting to hold lien on any of these properties?
Not to our knowledge, not in our discussions.
Thank you. And on the third bullet point, EDA cannot directly reimburse MPOT unless the MPOT is added to the grant as a co-grantee. Has there been any discussion with MPOT to become a co-grantee of this particular grants?
No, they are in agreement with our execution strategy on how we would conduct the reimbursements. And at this time, the CNMI remains the sole grantee of the project or the
Thank you very
programs.
much. And that concludes, Senator Paul, my questions
Thank you,
regarding this
Madam.
matter.
Thank you, Madam President. And Senator Cruz? Second.
Thank you, Chairman. And you mentioned earlier that, Secretary, the reimbursement is not going to go directly to MPLT, right? It goes to finance, and then you will do the payment on a 30 days agreement, right?
Yes.
Okay, now I know there's expiration date for the project, and the longest one is 2027. So is this correct that we're giving 5 to 7 years, and some of these projects are going to expire in, I think, in 4 years from today?
Senator Cruz, so the period of performance for each grant is 5 years.
Okay.
We have experience where we need to get a grant time extension from the grantor, and we haven't had any denial so far for time extension when we justify. And pretty much with EDA, for everything that we do, we consult with them. They have to approve whenever we need to do change orders. So they're going to be pretty much aware of the performance for each project.
So there's in the past that you have been approved for extension.
For CIP. Oh, for other CIP projects, but for EDA, I'm going to defer to Mr. Mariano.
Are you referring to
Like time extensions.
time extensions? So any time extensions beyond the 5-year performance period, it goes above the regional office. It goes to headquarters for additional time, and so that approval comes from Washington D.C. But any time extensions within the 5-year period is handled by the regional office.
Okay, thank you. I know that I don't have any doubt that we can pay that because out of the 97, maybe probably if you're not granted extension, we're gonna lose some of that. But I know out of the 97, maybe we can be able to pay the 15 million, and every time there's a drawdown, right? We can be able to get that back, and because I know there's a lot of question with NMDs that like what Senator Mendiola mentioned, and what is going to benefit. Because I'm not against any project of any senatorial district. I'm just want to completely understand, and good thing that it was mentioned that in the event in the coming years we want Commonwealth. If there is a project that requires or or every senator district have are entitled to that no that free money from from the federal government, I think we should be helping one another and make sure that no island should be left behind on in this kind of opportunity. Uh, I know that you visited Tinian and you discussed with our RDH, but I think if this money is available for for the old cinema, then I think we should be helping one another, and, come together because after all, it's gonna benefit the old cinema. If all three islands grow, believe me that it will be the whole cinema will grow, not only one island. We're helping one another. Will have economic growth. So I appreciate. I know that you're just coming into this OPD, and I know that you've been very supportive for the Commonwealth, although you work in the mainland, and I appreciate doing all this. I know that this is your work. That's why we have not cinemas or Saipan is awarded 97 million. So again, I thank you and everyone that is involved in making this a successful. Like I said, I'm not against a senatorial project. I'm just concerned about. In the beginning, I'm very concerned as to why Tina and Rhoda are not included in this in this EDA project, and also I have to also be very concerned about our STE MPLT funding. That's why there's a lot of question been raised today because this is very critical. We want to make sure that we understand what we're doing here. Myself, I want to understand that I'm supporting something that will benefit the cinema, not only Saipan. It will benefit the cinema. So again, thank you, and I hope that we can spend all those 97 million and not lose the opportunity because even any grant, if you don't spend it and you're requesting for more, they're not going to give you if you have a lot of laps. So I hope that we spend all those money. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Press. I move that we rise back to our plenary session.
Second.
Thank you, Floor Leader. And there is a motion to move back into our plenary session. It has been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Okay, we're
Aye.
back into our originating session, and we have a very good conversation. We thank you so much for coming this afternoon to join us, Ms. Balahaja, Mr. Iglesias, and Tracy Norita, the Secretary of Finance, Sidusma Sinitempun Mizo. As members, I guess we've had a very thorough conversation and clarification from the executive branch. And now we are back to our the amendments on the floor on last week, Friday, from the acting floor leader at that time, Senator Selena Babauta, and has been seconded by Senator Jude. And Senator Paul, you are the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Press. And I believe all the members have copies of House Bill 2377 SD1. So that was the motion offered by floor leader then, Senator Selena Babalta. And I guess we're still under discussion.
Recognize Senator Jude Hofschneider.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Floor Leader. Just to kind of circle back on the one of the citations, the cousin or the partnering agencies. That's what was mentioned earlier during the committee of the whole. That So we don't see the need to amend further to add
Yeah.
the BEAD planning grant as guided accordingly, no, Flor? So, okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hofschneider. I guess there's no further discussions. I recognize Senator Paul.
Thank you, Madam Press. I just want to point out that this provision on SD1, page 4, removing the requirement to pledge with MPLT increased income to the general fund. So this is actually a good amendment, and I hope MPLT will continue to proceed with this line of credit, even with the removal of that, because I want to point out that even in EDA's letter, they wanted to make sure that there's no collateral or any precondition. So I just want to clarify that, because this is our worry is that we do not want to have this paid by the increased income for the next 7 years, and then at the end of the day, this might turn into an appropriation when the last project do not pay back the reimbursement. So I just want to point that out, and thank you very much for earlier during the committee of the whole, to the Secretary of Finance, the directors, and Mr. Iglesias. Thank you, Madam President. Ready for the question?
All those in favor of the proposed amendments to House Bill 23-77, say aye.
Aye.
Not yet. We're going to go back to the original. Yeah. Nays? The proposed amendment hereby is accepted by this body. Now we will go back to the original motion for the passage of House Bill 2377, incorporating all the proposed amendments under SD1. I recognize now the acting floor leader, Senator Paul Manglona.
Ready for the question, Madam President.
There's a motion to pass House Bill number 23-77 in the form of SD1. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Cruz? Senator Hofschneider?
Good.
Senator King Neighbors?
Yes.
Senator Mangonia Paul?
Yes.
Senator Mindiola? Senator Mindiola?
Yes.
Senator Cruz?
Yes.
Madam President?
And before I cast my vote, I would like to express to the viewing public that one of the reasons why, too, the proposal to remove the pledge on the income and interest is because we did pass here in the Senate Legislative Initiative number 2301, SD1, back in June of 2023. And this particular initiative is down at the House in the committee right now being addressed. So in the interest of NMDs, that's the reason why, too, the pledge has all been removed by this proposed legislation of 2377 SD1. And my vote is yes.
Madam
With-
President, 6 members voted yes.
With all 6 members voting yes, which requires 2/3 vote to pass this legislation, House Bill number 23-77 in the form of SD1 hereby passes the Senate. Moving on to item Q, petitions, memorials, and miscellaneous communications. There is none. Under item R, announcements. Senators? None. I now recognize the floor leader for the adjournment of the session.
Madam Press, I move that the Senate adjourn subject to the call of the President.
There's a motion to adjourn this session. It has been seconded. All those in favor say aye. This session is hereby adjourned. Thank you, senators.
Thank you.